Oui. In this tutorial, I'll show you how you can basically rig any arbitrary face model, any mesh you have of a character, with basically all the blend shape or the shape keys in Blender that you need to do facial mocap. So the two most common options for facial mocap are iPhone or iPad with the AR-Kit, and the newer option is using the Quest Pro that has a more modern facial system where you have independent eyebrows, for example. So usually it's done all by hand, but that can be very time consuming and very hard to create all these shapes, either by sculpting or from a rig. But basically, the technique I found after many years of using Character Creator and iClone, and being constrained by the Character Creator topology, and having to use iClone, which for newcomers it's a bit expensive because you need to also buy the plugins for facial mocap. So it's in total around $1,000 just to have the software. And if you already have an iPhone, you can use Face Motion 3D, which I'll link in the description, which is basically a $20 or $40 way to stream your facial mocap from an iOS device directly to Blender. But here what I will show is the meta demo head. Basically, it's a public file. You can use it as a developer, and Face Motion 3D also has a demo head that contains all the blend shapes. So the blend shapes are basically these things. So you have here for the AR-Kit 52 shapes usually for the mouth and the eyelids and the eyebrows mostly. And here in Meta, there's a few more, but it's very similar shapes. So it's also possible if you have ones to rename them one by one to match the other. But the way you use the Meta facial capture is using Mocap Fusion. And in Mocap Fusion, you can also remap any profile to another profile. So here the technique I found is basically to grab this one of these demo head, the one you want to use for recording your mocap, iPhone or MetaQuest, and place it on your character. So here is an arbitrary character. It's a character that comes from Character Creator, but it could be any mesh, any topology. I could even subdivide this mesh and sculpt it more precisely. It will still work. So the idea is to sculpt the demo head to match your character. You can do it on the basis shape or on a new blend shape to be non-destructive. So in sculpt mode, you can use the elastic deform brush, and in tool panel, activate the symmetry. In advanced, you have the auto masking by topology that can be useful in some case when you want to touch only one part of the mesh. But here, if I just start to match the demo head with my character, I just want to make sure if I created a new shape to be non-destructive, to have it pinned here with the tiny pin icon. That way it's like locked at a value of 1, even if there is no value here. So I know I'm looking at that shape. If it's not pinned, then the shape is not visible, and if I sculpt on it, it can be very unpredictable results because you're basically sculpting something that's invisible, so you don't see what you're doing. But you can, still also just sculpt directly on the basis. But if you do it non-destructively, you can always bake this shape on the basis by going in edit mode, selecting all the vertices. And here I have in my quick favorite blend from shapes, but you can find it in the F3 menu, blend from shapes, or in the vertex menu here toward the bottom, blend from shapes, and you can add it to your quick favorites. So once you click on this, you can select a shape. Here, the design shape I've used to sculpt, and you can add it fully or just a little bit, or even in negative. So once you add it at 1, you can then delete the shape if you want. But here I'm just gonna continue sculpting on that non-destructive shape, and quickly with the elastic deform basically match or conform the demo head to my character. So the tricky part are the eyes in this case, because they are very differently sized. But once you've done that once, you can use your character as a demo head, transfer the shapes on character that has the same style or proportions much faster, because you will have much less sculpt to do to match the two faces. And if you have a very cartoony character, you can then take the demo head that's more cartoony. So you can nearly do yourself a bank of stem or source for your facial rigging. So the only tricky part is that the eyelids and the lips ideally needs to be opened for the lips and slightly more closed for the eyelids, just for the projection to be a bit cleaner. It's not mandatory, because you can always clean up all the shapes once they've been transferred, but overall it will be a bit faster to do that. But with the blend from shape, it's fairly easy. You can select your basis, so the actual base mesh, and you can blend from shape the jaw open if you already have some shapes on this face that doesn't match the profile you want. Otherwise, you just need to open the lips or the jaw by hand. And here I can type a very small value just to have the jaw slightly open. And then I will be able to close the jaw doing the same thing, but with a negative value. Minus 0.3 will basically close the jaw once the shapes are transferred. Can do the same for the eyelids, as here my character has already some shapes, but otherwise I can just model or sculpt the eye slightly closed. And same for her, I can open her lips a bit, so it will be much cleaner to transfer mostly the corners of the lips between the two surfaces. And here I've also closed a bit the eyes. Back in sculpt mode, I can also use the smooth brush to make everything a little bit easier to match. But that's basically what headshots in Character Creator and Mesh to MetaHuman do, essentially matching two heads and transferring the shape keys or any information like the texture. Here is just that we'll grab the shape keys from the reference instead of projecting the texture and the base mesh to the reference. So to resume, basically we have our character, a reference head. We just sculpt this head to match our character. And then after a little while, we have both meshes that match nearly perfectly. And we can use a free add-on called ShapeKey Transfer. I'll post the link as well, but you can get it on GitHub. It's pretty simple. You just pick the source mesh and the destination mesh. So here it's the demo head from Meta for the Quest Pro to my mesh from Character Creator. If you have any shape keys already on your mesh, you can delete all shape keys and simply click transfer shape keys. It will take a bit of time depending on the complexity of the geometry, but it's fairly stable. It never crashed when I tried, so you just have to wait. It was done in 20 seconds, I guess, not even 15 seconds. So I just got all the shape keys for the Meta Quest Pro facial capture. So what I can do here, because I have already a file with some animation, I can slap it on this face and see how the projection worked. So I'm gonna go in Dope Sheet, ShapeKey Editor. I select my face and I assign the action I got. And by default, there will obviously be some things that are too strong or not clean enough, but it's fairly simple to just check the shapes one by one. If you press on the pin icon here and just press the down and or up keys or just click the shape, you can pretty quickly see basically the shape at 100% visibility. So if you deactivate the mirror and use mostly the smooth brush, you can get all these things. You can activate the wireframe at 50% opacity and clean any error you see. With the smooth brush, it's very fast. It's basically due to the transfer happening with proximity. So some vertices see that they are closer to another vertex on the source head, so they snap to it, and their neighbor is closer to another, so they get a bit stretched, but that's basically very easy to smooth. You can also polish these shapes, like customize them. So here, as the eyes were huge on the source mesh, the eyelids are super closed, but what I can easily do is again select everything and do a blend from shape. So I'll basically take the basis and I'll unactivate the add, meaning it will remove, like mix toward the basis. So instead of sculpting and smoothing, I can just do this to reduce the opacity in a way, the final opacity of this shape. So here it's 63% mixed with the default basis shape. So I can do it for the other eyelid. Just need to press once, blend from shape, and it's already there. And then smoothing a little bit. I can use the inflate brush to make sure the eyelids are nicely shut during the blink. And here in few seconds, I have a perfectly clean shape. Here as well, just a little bit of smooth, really fast, a little bit of inflate, and the shape has gone from horrible to perfect in a dozen click. Here the same on all the look up, down, left, all that. There will be the same thing, but it's again very easy. Just one click once the thing is on your quick favorite. You just go from shape to shape and calm it down. It really just takes a few seconds. And you can also use the move brush, obviously, to make it more or less exaggerated. And for the teeth, by default here, they are separated, so it's a bit creepy. But as they have a different material, I can always join them with the head to have the same shapes. Or very quickly, as it's just the draw drop, I can copy as new driver the draw drop value and paste it as driver on the teeth. So this is the teeth from the demo head, as it's faster than to transfer shapes to your teeth because there is also all the tongue movements. So that way, when I set the jaw at one, it's only one, it's also one on the teeth. But yeah, you can just do it by hand as well. Here, as it's a symmetrical shape, I can reactivate the mirror, and again, it's very fast to correct all the transfer issues with the smooth brush. And I can customize this shape with the inflate, for example, give a bit of flesh here, and here the lips shape without symmetry, obviously. It's just a matter of smoothing a bit. But basically, once you're done, you can also keep working on the design. So here I've sculpted the basis shape to polish the design of the character from this guy that looks quite generic to this guy that's a bit more interesting. And I've also slightly polished all the shapes. Of course, anything that's design you want to do on the basis or on the design shape, that will always be at one, because everything you do on the shapes, it will just appear when there is an animation on that shape. So it needs to be only expression. So here, to give the shape to the lips, it's on the basis, and on the other shapes, it's only the deformation. It's not design. But here I've basically nearly didn't do any work on all these shapes. It's 99% the transfer from the demo head to my character. So when you're done, you can follow tutorials to export your character to Mocap Fusion via Unity. exporting an FBX, applying some script, the meta shape keys will be detected automatically. So you just have one single button to click. And you can also do this for the Sidekick app of Mocap Fusion that use your iPhone, just like Face Motion 3D and iClone, that each have a specific way of naming all these shapes. So you ideally just need to find the demo head. For Face Motion 3D, the most accessible one, the demo head is on the website. You can find the app on the Apple Store and the Blender add-on to connect to the app here on the website. And the demo head is contained in the add-on. So with this demo head, you could do the same shape key transfer to have the exact name that's needed for the app for all these shapes without having to figure out how to rename one by one all the shapes from one convention to the other. But in Mocap Fusion, I've also uploaded some avatars to the Steam Workshop that have the iOS shape keys and the meta shape keys, so you could do your motion capture on these avatars that have these shape keys and simply select the action that's saved, that's exported, select the action on your character, and it will just play the animation. So this is essentially what I did here. I've grabbed the action that's in this scene, exported from Mocap Fusion. So you can see the yellow shape keys, and I just clicked on File Append. I selected the action in this file, and I've applied it via the opsheet ShapeKey editor to this character. So here it's basically running in real time. As I tweaked a bit the shading, you can see that the meta technology for the face recognition is a bit better than the older Apple ARKit technology, because I think you have a wider range on the mouth, and mostly the independent eyebrows add a lot of subtlety. On iPhone, they are glued together, basically the left and right eyebrows. And here on Meta, you can rise one, not the other. And here I've even added a simple wrinkle system. Basically, I had a wrinkle normal map here from a character creator export, but you can also do it by hand, like sculpt that and bake it to a normal map. And what I did is simply two values nodes that I've added together to go into a mix factor that basically just blends the default normal map and the wrinkle normal map. So it's in mix, but if you only have the wrinkle without all the details, you can put it in overlay mode, so they will layer on top of each other without don't lose the details. Basically, you will add the wrinkles without losing the first detail texture in overlay mode. But here, as my wrinkle texture already has some details, it's in mix. But yeah, the big advantage of this technique is that I could have subdivided this head before transferring the shapes to have basically more topology to sculpt all the shapes. While if you use Character Creator, the topology is locked and you cannot subdivide or sculpt the shapes. You have to rely on wrinkle textures to add more details to expressions. So yeah, basically to resume, it's grabbing a mesh that has the shape you want, snapping it to your character, using the ShapeKey transfer to transfer the shapes, being careful about the lips and the eyelids, then doing a little bit of cleanup on all the shapes, while still having the possibility to totally change the design of your character. And on your next character, if it's very close in terms of proportions, you could also start from this shape, this head, without having to do anything about all the facial expressions. They will already be there. You will just sculpt the basis or sculpt the design shape key that you can later apply or not. You can nearly build yourself a bank of already pre-rigged heads. And once you have some animation, you can put this animation on any head that has the same ShapeKey names. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting technique because it's kind of more powerful than what I guess me and most people are or were using, but it's also much cheaper in terms of money and time spent. You have more freedom to customize the shapes with an arbitrary topology with more or less polygons, and you get all this for just a few minutes of work. Then you can just focus on the design and on the customization of the shapes for each character. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting technique, and I hope this helps. Thanks.